Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on our first resident webinar. So we're very excited to be here and pleased that you are too. So today you'll be hearing from a number of the heads of retirement living. So myself, so I'm Vanessa Pritchard-Wilkes and I'm head of strategic operations, and next up will be Jen Davis-Dean, who's head of the South. After that, we have Lindsay Leach, who's head of the North. And we also have Richard Wheeldon here, who's currently working on the leasehold and market rents project. So without further ado, we will move on to what we're going to be speaking about. So I've done the who we are, so hopefully that's quite clear. So this morning we're going to be looking at the resident survey results. Hopefully most of you here will have completed the questionnaire recently. On that, we're then going to speak about what actually happens with those results. What do we do after we've been through that huge exercise of collating all that information? And then we're going to be speaking about service charge consultations. So if you could leave, we'll be taking questions at the end, but if you do have any questions, you should be able to see a Q&A box. So if you can pop any questions into that box, and then we'll address those at the end, if that's okay. So in terms of the resident survey, some of you may have heard about the recently passed Social Housing Regulation Act. And as part of this, the social housing regulator introduced what were called tenant satisfaction measures. So all registered providers of social housing must now collect and report on these measures. There are 22 of them in total, 12 of which will have been in the resident survey that you completed. So it's all about satisfaction levels with certain aspects of our service and our accommodation. So that's sort of part of the move towards greater transparency for residents. So the kind of ethos of that act that's just been passed is to give residents more information so that you can hold your landlord, that's us, to account. So as well as that information that will be that is available on the website, we're also working on a range of other information as well that we're going to make available to you. And so look out for the revamped resident information section of the website. We're currently working on that, so there should be all sorts of hopefully useful information on that. So in terms of the actual survey, we did that between June and September this year. You will have received a copy of that survey, which we then asked you to send back to us. So 57% of you actually responded to that survey, which is an amazing result. So thank you very much for that. And we've plugged in all that data and come up with some satisfaction scores. So across retirement living, we overall satisfaction was 86%, which is fantastic. So you'll see on that chart on the right, this is some data that we've got from Acuity, which is the research company we use to do our survey, and they do surveys for nearly 80 social landlords. And you'll see there highlighted in yellow that we're the 6th highest of all of the satisfaction surveys that we do. And it's showing 87% there. So not to confuse you, but the 87% is overall satisfaction with Housing 21 residents, and it's 86 with retirement living residents. So just to put it in a little bit of context, we have been doing our satisfaction survey for a number of years, and you'll just see there in the chart at the top that we have seen a slight decrease over that time, but also that box at the bottom there, that again is from Acuity, the research organisation, which is showing results from across the social housing sector. So you'll see there that decline is mirrored there. So just in terms of breaking it down to regions, you'll see there that there's not that much difference between regions, but we do see a few percentage points difference. We are also providing bespoke reports on this data for schemes where we've had over 10 responses. So where 10 or more residents have answered the questionnaire, then the scheme will receive a bespoke report with your satisfaction scores on there. So quite a lot of data on this slide, apologise for that, but if these are the 12 tenant satisfaction measures that are measured by the survey, plus a local question, so there's 13 on here, so the housing management team is an additional question we ask right at the bottom there. So you'll see in terms of the highest scores, I've highlighted those in yellow, so keeping communal areas clean and well maintained, your satisfaction with that is 90%. Next highest is that you feel that you have a safe home at 88%. And then jointly third is that that home is well maintained and you're also satisfied with repairs that have been undertaken in the last 12 months. There is a question there around complaints handling that you'll see is quite low, and I put a note there that actually the sector average for that is 34%. So that is the satisfaction level with your complaint and how it's been handled. So that is something that we'll be doing some work on, and we'll be speaking about that later. So we also asked you to provide any comments which you wanted to in terms of the free text box. So we received thousands and thousands of comments, so we're still sort of working our way through those. But in terms of what you see as most positive is the attitude of our staff, that you feel safe and secure, there's good service overall, and the helpfulness of the local manager as well as the overall manager service. We also asked what we could improve, so some negative comments around schemes, the tenant services and management, communication, the negative attitudes around the manager, and some around repairs as well. So what we're doing with all these comments is this is just really top line headline information at the moment, but we will be looking at all of those comments and really drawing out some of the detail to inform what we do next. So I'd like to hand over now to Jen Davis-Dean, who will talk you through what we actually do with all of that data. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Vanessa. Hi, everyone. So that's the results. You've gone to the effort of telling us what you think. So it's really, really important that we take that feedback and we analyse it and we take some positive action to make improvements for you where we can. So it's still early days in getting these results through, but a few areas that really stand out to us, as Vanessa mentioned there, particularly is the complaints area. And it's important that we try to understand whether that low satisfaction rating is down to a lack of understanding about the complaints process itself, whether it's about the final outcome people receive, or whether it's about a failure in service delivery. So we have very, very few housing ombudsman determinations that find we've done something wrong by the time we've gone through our complaint stages. But we need to really unpick the issue here and see how we can drive that score up. Although it's above the sector average at the moment, that sector average is really low. So we need to see what we can do there and do some further work. Antisocial behaviour was another area that came out a little low. We're really lucky in that we have very few serious antisocial behaviour incidents and concerns in retirement living compared to many other providers. So residents' views on what ASB is and isn't are often different for us in retirement living to those in other properties in the sector. We tend to have more neighbour disputes, but we need to make sure that we're managing expectations well in relation to those issues, and that we're handling them sensitively and proactively and acting appropriately when serious issues do arise. So we'll be focusing on this area where our scores, as I say, were slightly lower. Listening and acting on your views is an absolutely critical one for us, not just because the regulator tells us we have to listen to you, because we genuinely really want to. You are the ones who are experiencing our services, you're who our services are for, and you're the ones best placed to know what's working well or if there are areas where we're falling short. So as well as listening to you. It's not just the listening, but it's then taking that action and showing you what we're doing. So we need to improve how we show you and tell you that we've listened and what we've done as a result. So you'll see in your newsletters a new section called You Said We Listened, and to try to highlight how your feedback has had an influence and resulted in any change. And that might be something at a scheme level, or it might be something wider that we've adopted across retirement living. So that should give it a little bit more evidence there to show you and give you comfort that we're listening and we're taking action. And then finally, I just wanted to mention value for money as well. So we know how important the affordability of our homes and our services are to residents, particularly in current times with the surge in the cost of living that we've had over the past couple of years, the high energy prices that peaked last year, and the added pressure that brings to all of us. So affordability of our services is always high on our minds and on our agenda. And Lindsay will be speaking about service charge meetings in just a moment. I just wanted to finish by saying thank you to all of you that did take part in the survey. Vanessa said it was, 57% of our residents, which is great, and we really do appreciate it. And it helps us to know where best to focus our energy and our efforts in improving the service for you. Vanessa also said there are individual court reports have just come to us. They're pretty hot off the press. We will be analysing those and we'll be producing action plans at court level, patch and regional level and national level as well, and we'll make sure that those results and action plans are shared with you for your discussion and your input crucially as well. So they'll be coming out to your courts, and if you're not already, just a little plug here to say do think about joining our retirement living national panel and our regional resident engagement groups that run as well, and that will enable you to have even more influence on those regional and the national plans, not just what happens on your courts locally. That's it from me. At the moment, I'm going to hand over to Lindsay, who's going to talk a little bit more there about your service charge meetings.
Thanks, Jen. Morning, everybody. Nice to see so many of you joining us for our first coffee catch-up with our residents. So my role this morning is to talk to you about the service charge meetings, and just to emphasise how important it is for you to understand them and to attend them. So you've got your Understanding Your Service Charge document, which is available from your local housing manager. If you get a chance, that's a really good document to enable you to better understand the charges on your service charge. You're all probably wondering about the utility deficits from the previous year when energy costs were through the roof. We are building a surplus this year because the costs have reduced slightly. We're still discussing the rent because you probably, those that savvy amongst you have seen that CPI has gone down in October, so the board are still discussing the rent. But what I want you to do is to come to the service charge meetings, because as my next slide will show, not only do we talk about, the costs that have been incurred, we'll also talk about how we can sort of help you to offset some of those costs. So with the energy support, we've got Operation Lightbulb, and you'll have seen that in your newsletters, energy saving tips. We've got our helping hands. We've joined HACT, which gives us the ability to do benefit entitlement checks for you. And one of my colleagues said that she pretended to divorce her husband for the day and put in the benefits checker, and she's actually entitled to some universal credit. So it is worth having that check, because you never know, you could be entitled to something. And then on the next slide, we've got our helping hands and turn to us, which we've just talked about. And then on the next one, we've got our community and wellbeing fund. So the idea behind this is that if you all sort of dine together and use one oven in your communal lounge, which you can get funding for if you've not got one, you're obviously saving costs because you've not all got your own independent ovens on or your own heating and lighting on if you're all in one place. So that's just sort of a whistle-stop tour of what help we have got available, and we'll share with you at those service charge meetings. So please do attend. So thank you on behalf of the team, and we'll now open it up to any questions that you might have. Richard.
Hello, everyone. As of yet, I've not seen any questions public. Oh, I speak too soon. Need to release that. The first question is around the service charge meetings. When will the service charge meetings be announced?
Do you want me to take that, Linz?
Yes.
I don't.
Is that a question for Jen?
It can be
Oh,
for
sorry,
any of us.
Richard. I thought you were answering as well as. Sorry.
Do you want me to
Anytime now. Some of you may have already had them, but we're starting to send the packs out now with the letters and the dates of when they are. But yeah, all through November and early into December.
Okay, if it's back to me, another question is around the Helping Hands grant and how you access it. So it might be worth, Lindsay, you taking that one.
Okay, so you can just go and speak to your local housing manager who will help you support to fill in the application form. You can apply for sort of anything. We obviously don't give money, so we'll give shopping vouchers if you need food. We've paid for somebody to have new glasses. We've paid for car insurance for people to get to medical appointments. So yeah, if you speak to your local housing manager, they will support you in completing the application.
Okay, is it back to me? The next question might still be with you, Lindsay, around the conferences. Will there be more conferences next year?
Because it's service charge time of year, we've not yet got round to discussing next year's conferences, but it'll be on our agenda early in the new year to look at, do we do something different? Do we stay with the, the same that, that we did this year? So yeah, and if you've got any ideas as to how you think we should do the residents' conferences, then please do let us know. There will be an email address shown on your screen at the end for you to send any ideas and suggestions that you might have, because you know that we really do value your opinion.
Okay, questions are literally coming in. And the next one is, how can we be sure that the service charge is the best price? Jen, would you mind taking that one?
I can do if you like, Richard, yes. Or you could have answered that one, I'm sure.
I'm sure I could have.
We're really mindful of our charges, as I said, both, with rent, with service charge. We scrutinise our costs a lot. Your local housing managers, I'm sure you probably know in your courts, use local contractors where they can. They get multiple quotes when they can to ensure they're getting best value for money. Value for money is not always necessarily the cheapest. You guys get your say when it comes to your term contractors. So gardeners, for example, you might have kind of a basic specification, but you can input into that. You might want more done, it might be a bit more expensive, but you might deem that to be good value. So we're always looking at these costs, we're scrutinising them. We review our finances on a regular basis with our teams as well to make sure we can spot any anomalies, any trends, any other actions that we can take. And you guys have a role to play as well. As Lynn said, turn up to your service charge consultation meetings, talk to us, let us know what you think. Are there any tweaks we can make here and there? So I think it's something that we work on together with, your management teams, your local housing teams, and you as residents can help us get the best value for money that we can there.
Okay, that's why I let you answer that question. Thank you, James. Another one's just skipped in. When can we see what other landlords are scoring compared to Housing 21? That seems like it should fit with Vanessa, please.
Yeah, no problem, Richard. So when I was talking about the newly introduced tenant satisfaction measures, I mentioned that we need to be submitting them to the regulator. We don't need to do that until autumn next year, but we will be publishing them, as will many other social landlords this year. So we're keeping an eye out on other landlords' web pages. So we'll be gathering that data for this year. But as from autumn next year, then the regulator will be publishing the results for all social landlords, so they'll be made freely available, and we will highlight that to you and make you aware where all of that information is. And it's the first time that you'll be able to see the performance of thousands of housing associations. Every housing association and housing provider has to ask the same question. There's no flexibility on the wording at all, so they will be you will be comparing like with like questions.
Okay, and there are no further questions been posted.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Anything that anybody wants to add before we put up the email address so that we can have any comments from the attendees? So thank you for attending. We would welcome any feedback you've got on this webinar and how useful you've found it, or any suggestions for topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future. So yeah, once again, on behalf of the whole of Retirement Living, thank you very much for attending this our first webinar, and I'll just pop that email address on the screen for you if you want to make a note of it in case you want to send us any suggestions.
And before we disappear as well, we have had another question appear, which is asking, will we be doing any more of these?
Absolutely, yes, I think so. I think we've got a great attendance here. If people find them useful, then we're more than happy to do more of them. And as I say, please give us any suggestions for topics you want us to cover. It'd be fantastic. Is that definitely it then, Richard?
That's all the questions. I interrupted you there, Vanessa, so you were just going to flash on screen.
I am, if I can find the presentation again.
Right, well, whilst you're doing that, another question has popped in.
Brilliant.
Just need to release it. The question is asking, are residents informed about any policy change? It's probably a good question for you, Vanessa.
Okay, yeah, so we, as Jen said earlier, we have a number of resident panels, and we're getting better at taking any policies that we are changing or any new policies to those resident panels to get inputs on those. So again, if you want to find out more about that, then please contact us. We'd love more residents to be involved. And as I said, we are revamping the resident information section of the website. We've identified a number of policies that we are going to be putting on that section, and that's kind of happening as we speak. So key policies will be on there. But if there's anything else that you would like to see, again, just please get in contact with us, and we can make those policies available to you. And I think I'm going to put the email address in the chat. I think that might be better than you trying to find it.
While you do that, I'm just going to add to that answer, if I can do, Vanessa, and I think Anina's asked, just to say we've got loads of policies, lots of them you probably wouldn't be interested in, but we've got quite a few that are more resident facing. So Vanessa talked about the input that residents can have in the development and the changes to those policies, but for a lot of you, what you just want to know is, well, what if something changes, if it affects you? So it's all very well it being on the website, but I know some of you won't necessarily access that, and you'll want to know sort of in real time when something changes. So we do our best where it's a very sort of resident facing policy to make sure that we put updates in the newsletters, or that your local housing managers bring those changes to you at court meetings and those kind of things. But if there are any areas there you think we should do better, or we need to be a bit more proactive on, please do let us know. But we do try our best. There just are a lot of changes going on, but you're right that we need to let you know where they affect you. So let us know if we have or haven't been doing that, for sure.
Any more questions popped in, Richard? Or
there are no more questions popping in.
Okay, perfect. So I've put the email address in the chat, but obviously if you want to contact us, you can contact us directly or through your local housing manager, etc. We'd love to hear from you, love to hear your suggestions as to future webinars. And once again, thank you very much.